So now we've got a Q&A, so I'd like to begin by just asking each of our recipients to introduce themselves and where are you guys from and what you did study when you were at the university.
I'll go first.
Yep.
My name is Christina Lee. I came to ANU in 2017. I studied law and arts and majored in human rights. And I'm originally from Korea, but I grew up in Cairns.
My name's Laura. I'm from Ulverston in Tasmania along the north coast. I came here in 2015 to study a Bachelor of Law and Bachelor of Arts, majored in French and minored in political science and human rights.
And Lachlan Smith from Hayward in Victoria, which is roughly an hour away from Hamilton, which is where one of the previous recipients was from. When I was at ANU, I took a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Laws, and majored in international relations and political science, and took an honours thesis in competition law.
So my next question, and if we want to get on the other end, Lachlan, do you want to start and then go up? Why did you want to study law at ANU?
I think when I was looking at my career, my vision of where I might go with my career, originally I was thinking in terms of taking the strict law career pathway. As it turned out, I took a slightly different approach, but I looked at Canberra as the sort of location where, firstly, it was an absolutely world-class university, but also the sort of environment that I could try and make home of, because it was sort of an environment that mirrored in a lot of ways as sort of the midway point between a big city university and a country area, and I found that really attractive as an option.
I think I would echo that as well. It was kind of a somewhere in between Sydney and Melbourne, but not quite as daunting. I think the benefit, of course, was the fact that the High Court's here, the Parliament's here. We've got incredible professors here, so ANU really was always kind of a dream to go to. In terms of whether that dream could be a reality, that was another question. And I never really knew if I wanted to study law. It was a bit of a gamble. I didn't know any lawyers. No one in my family was a lawyer. I didn't know any friends that were lawyers. And essentially, I just got into law because I liked debating and I liked defending people. And I felt they might have gone hand in hand. So coming from rural Tasmania, there's certainly people that are maybe ignorant of the law or disadvantaged, and I felt like I could improve in that area. So that's why I think I came across ANU and got stuck here ever since.
I feel like I had a calling. I researched for university to move to from Cairns, and when I saw ANU just on images, I just felt it. This is it. But also I wanted to go to a place where I could study a double degree, and here was perfect. And I was really attracted to the name of Canberra, the meaning of Canberra, the meeting place, and I always looked forward to meeting like-minded people. I said that in my Year 12 interview into the different colleges at ANU, and one of my friends from uni is here, and I got to meet people that share the same vision and passions as me, and I think I've made the right choice.
And now, Christina, do you want to start again?
Yeah, sure.
So what prompted you to apply for the Phillipa Weeks Scholarship, and what did it mean to you when you were awarded it?
Yeah, I remember that day very well. When I finished my IB exams in end of Year 12, I had a few days to apply for this scholarship, and I was going to Nepal for this trip after finishing high school. And when I saw the application form in Phillipa Weeks and her story, I was immediately attracted to because of my story and my sister. The reason I wanted to study law is because of my older sister, who was born in 1992. My sister Gayun was born with a small problem in her mouth, and she went into surgery in Korea, and she was about 9 months old, and the doctor caused medical negligence, but the hospital spent the hours after the surgery trying to hide the mistake. And I grew up being angry and sad and questioning why would this happen to our family, and that story led us to Australia after my sister died in 2000. And I guess I was always angry and didn't know what to do with that frustration. But as I learnt more about law and the justice and the legal system, I realised I can channel that anger towards something else. And I wanted to do that through law. I can't bring my sister back. I can't do anything for her, but I can do things like for people like her. And I think the reason I wanted to apply for the Phillipa Weeks Scholarship was because Phillipa is no longer here, but there are people around the world that are still doing things for her, and people still so inspired by her, and that just really resonated with me. And it was the scholarship I wanted really badly, because I wanted to be associated with someone amazing as Phillipa, and that's why I applied. And of course the financial help, and
In terms of why I applied, I think at the time, I think many of us would agree that it was quite difficult for us to relocate interstate, or for me on the mainland. And essentially, I feel like applying for any scholarship was really, again, a bit of a hit and miss, and you never knew if you were going to get it. And I know when I was applying for the ANU at the time, and I presume it's changed since, but there weren't many scholarships available, and I really thought it was a bit of a long shot to get a scholarship and to come here, and again, it just didn't seem like potentially a reality. And so when I was awarded it, I think it did make a real difference, because I felt like I had been acknowledged in the sense that I wasn't, this small kid from a small town that no one would have any hope in. I did feel like I was supported, and that potentially there was an opportunity to come to Canberra. So having that financial backing was really, again, a weight off your shoulders, but also feeling like you were part of a community as well before you even got here. That was actually really quite an amazing benefit.
It's amazingly similar to how I felt about the process as well. When I was going through Year 12, I remember thinking of ANU as the sort of dream university position, and on the morning that the results come out and you get the result that says you could be selected, you've met the requirements, you go, this is amazing, the dream has come true, now how do I do it? Yeah. And from that point, I was writing my application during a gap year as I was working as a timber stacker at a mill in southwest Victoria. And I remember putting in that application as I was working night shifts from, I think it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon through to 2:30 in the morning. And putting in the application and then having it come back at the end of the year as successful was just that moment of, this is absolute icing on the cake. And you think, maybe this is the sort of place where I can make a career. This is somewhere where I can go and get my education. Until that point, you just think, how could that possibly be so? So really appreciative of all the support from all the donors.
So my next question, and Lachlan, I'll get you to follow on again, is what opportunities did it open up for you to be awarded this scholarship?
I think coming to a session like this gives you a moment to think about it, actually, and it's sort of that what if moment. And what it gave me was the ability to go and not only the ability to spend more time studying and all of that sort of thing, but also to think about sort of personal and professional development. What it gave me was the freedom to be able to go and indulge some of my interest in politics and public policy by spending some time working with my local Member of Parliament, who I subsequently spent around 6 years working for after I finished my university degree. So I wonder, what if I didn't have the scholarship? Would I not have been able to make that connection? Would I not have been able to do that internship? Would I not have been offered that job? So I'm not sure if that's thinking too much, but certainly it has made an impact on me, and I'm really appreciative.
And I think you're right there about having that what-if moment, because I feel that had it not been for the scholarship, I would be living a completely different life, where I would be back in Tasmania. Not to say that that's a bad scenario, but it would have been a very different life. I wouldn't have been afforded the kind of job opportunities that I have currently in Canberra, and I wouldn't have had potentially access to leading academics at ANU. I wouldn't have had maybe a focus on research, a focus for the Canberra community. And again, it's just been, I suppose, an opportunity just to reflect on how far we've got. And I think it's testament to everyone, and even in the video, of all the recipients thus far and how far they've got just by having that scholarship. And I think what's also important about the scholarship is that it's recognised achievements prior to actually applying. So I think many of us were volunteering beforehand, or doing extracurricular activities in our community, which was why we were a recipient of the award. And so it's recognising that contribution that we've already made and continue to make today. So again, I couldn't speak more highly of the award and how lucky we are.
This scholarship literally took me to places around the world. One example is I got to go on a research trip with the School of Anthropology with Dr. Patrick Guinness to a remote village in Indonesia. And without the scholarship I wouldn't have been able to. And not only did it take me to places, but it made me realise, because I was always about doing things. Every year I would want to achieve this, and next year I want to do this. And because of the scholarship, I also got to go on exchange to Geneva, and because of my passion in human rights, every day felt like a dream. But one day I thought, I'm here, I'm in the middle of my dream city, but I'm not doing much other than just studying. And I was talking to an older friend, and he told me, you're a human being, not a human doing. And that really made me think about Phillipa as well. And when I came to ANU and met the different professors who were taught by Phillipa, it was not just about what she did for them, but how she made them feel, through her written notes, and that they still keep. And so I think the scholarship and the fact that we're constantly linked to Phillipa, it's a constant reminder of who we should be to the people around us, and I really appreciate that. And even at work, my managing partner at our firm, during my final interview, asked me, what is this Phillipa Weeks Scholarship? And I explained it to him, and he said he was also taught by Phillipa, and he's the reason why he's in employment law. And it's just, her impact is everywhere, and it makes me really conscious of every action I take, and so it's been very impactful in that way as well.
Now, in the interest of time, I'd like to direct this question towards Laura only. So what's something about rural, regional or remote students that most people, especially in Canberra, a lot of Sydney siders, Melbourne people, don't understand, in terms of the enormity of actually relocating from a small town or away from your friends and family, or the financial pressures, the way academic expectations may differ?
Thank you. So I think definitely the travel aspect. So in order for me to pack up my bags and belongings and move to Canberra, it was over 24 hours of travel, and that was taking a boat, and that was driving 8 hours from Melbourne to Canberra. And then when I got here, I didn't even have somewhere to go. I was staying with a friend's house at the time, and I wasn't part of a college dorm. I wanted to make it my own way and get a granny flat. And that took 3 months of searching to find somewhere. And so essentially, that kind of understanding about rural life is very different. We come here with different expectations of driving down the main street and expecting to get a park without paying. And it's a big shock when you have to come to Canberra and have a huge Westfield shopping centre, or people that are so used to this kind of lifestyle, whereas for us it's very different. And so because of that, it can be challenging to meet with other people and the cohort, speaking with other students, because their experience is completely different. So not only is the travel and the accommodation different, but I think also making that connection can sometimes be a little bit harder for us not having come from the same school. I know there was no one in my year that was travelling to Canberra, no one around my area that I knew that I could call upon. So it's really make it or break it sometimes, and Phillipa Weeks help us make it. Yeah.
And now I'd like to direct this to both Lockie and Christina, so as your most recent and oldest graduates. So what are you currently doing now, post uni, and what are your career plans? Lachlan, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so what I am doing now, I'm a trade and international affairs advisor at the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I've recently entered into that role after most recently working as a trade advisor to the Federal Trade Minister, in addition to some previous portfolio roles in that realm. As part of what we do now is actually, interestingly, I didn't know about this role until I directly went into the role and spoke to people at the organisation, but they've actually got some important connections to the International Chamber of Commerce, as well as the business advisory group to the OECD. And as part of a team that I'm in at the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we manage some of that engagement, and we work on some of those policy committees and commissions, as well as a few other roles of a more domestic nature. I'm not sure if that covers off what I'm doing now. It seems to. As for what the future holds, I'm quite new to this role and very much focused on trying to make sure that I'm doing this to the utmost.
Easy. I'm freshly graduated, so I started my grad program at Ashurst, and my colleagues are also here tonight. And I'm in my second rotation. In my first rotation, I went through employment law, and now I am in the transport and infrastructure team, which is the government procurement team, and looking at lots of contract reviewing, and so that's been fun. But I also have another job, which is tutoring legal theory here at ANU. So I started that a few months ago, and that's been really fun. Coming back to ANU in a different role and getting to spend time with really passionate students. So yeah.
And then Christina, to give you another question straight off the bat, I would like to ask, what does Phillipa's legacy mean to you, and how do you hope to, or how do you currently honour it as a scholar?
So much. So precious. Like when I had a really stressful day at uni, I would go to Phillipa's tree and just stand in front of it and just look at the tree and think, like, what would Phillipa do? I never got to meet her, but I feel like I know her through people like you and through the scholarship and the love that we've received throughout the last few years. And as I mentioned, I chose law because of my sister, and I feel like I'm living a life for two. And with Phillipa, I feel like I need to think about that as well, and my contributions to society. And I'd like to be that person when people walk into the room and they don't know anyone, they're scared and nervous, but when they see me, they feel relieved. Oh, I can go and talk to her. I feel okay. And I think that is how I would like to continue a legacy, and even through my class at ANU. It would be amazing if one of the students one day could remember my name and think about what I've taught them. And yeah, teachers have always meant a lot to me. When we first migrated to Australia, I spoke no English, and there's one particular teacher in Year 7, Mr. Mack. He made me enter public speaking competitions when I couldn't even formulate sentences properly, and he pushed me. And when it rained a lot, he would say, bring a spare of clothes so we can go out and play in the mud. So he taught us to see the beauty in the bad. And I think Phillipa has taught me a lot in that sense as well. Like, she is no longer here, but she has left so much. And I think Mr. Mack has also passed away a few years ago, and even though they're both gone, we as their students can do so much. And I think that's what their legacy means to me.
And then Laura, we actually were sort of discussing this earlier, so I thought I'd give you this question, is how would you like to see the scholarship evolve in the future?
Sure. So I think the scholarship, we realise we're really lucky in that we're potentially one of many students that need help. And so the fact that if there isn't sufficient funds, that it would be lovely for more students to get the scholarship, because I feel that there are quite a lot of students out there that maybe need that support and need a bit of encouragement and backing behind them to help them get where they are. So I'm sure I can speak on behalf of all of us and say we're so grateful for every donation that is given, and the very fact that many of you are continual support of the scholarship is also just unbelievable. So thank you for whatever donation you've given or whatever donation you will give, and hopefully the scholarship will evolve so that more scholarships from Phillipa Weeks can be given as well.
Lovely. Now this is our final question today, and I'd like to address it to everyone on the panel. And that is, what would you like to say to the donors here today, and then also to any future students thinking of applying for this scholarship?
Well, firstly, just a hearty thank you, a sincere thank you. As you've heard from all of us today, the ways that it impacts us, the ways that it provides that validation for someone from a regional area, it does it in so many different ways, and by the contribution that you've made, you'll never fully know the sorts of impacts that you've had on the lives of us and other recipients, just in giving us the sense that this is the sort of place where we can make our home and we can be comfortable as people from regional areas who could do with that validation and that little bit of extra encouragement that you can make it up here in Canberra.
I think I'll echo it as well and just say a big thank you. And if it weren't for Phillipa Weeks Scholarship, I probably wouldn't be doing, continuing her legacy. And I'm so privileged that I'm currently doing labour law as a solicitor now, and I feel like that is one way that we're giving back, in the sense that hopefully, potentially in a few years, I might be able to continue whatever things that she didn't get around to doing in the employment law space. And it's certainly, I think, a passion of many of ours in terms of going out there and supporting that kind of area of law. So thank you for that gift that you've given us, essentially.
Yeah, I echo that as well, and thank you for the best 5 years of my life. And yeah, I really, really promise that I'll make sure to make Phillipa and all of you proud, and so thank you, and if you can remember the impact that you've made on our lives.
And on that note, I'd like to open up the floor to the audience for any questions the audience would like to direct. Yeah.
It's a very strange question, but I'm also from a regional area, and just the sense of friendliness of other people from regional areas. I'm just curious, is there something that you took away from your hometown that has kind of stuck with you throughout uni, or even now? Is there anything that you've just held on to, or any qualities or people or anything?
Is there anyone who wants to go first?
Okay. That's a very good question. I think my school in Cairns was a state school, and it was very diverse, and we had students coming in from different countries for a few weeks as well. We had people who didn't speak English very well, and I think that taught me a lot, because I also come from that background, just patience and openness and taking a big interest, because we were always having different people coming into our school, and we didn't know, we knew that they won't be here for a long time, and some students weren't interested in building friendships, but me and our little group, we were always keen on, it doesn't matter how long they're here for, and I think that made me cherish every relationship very well, and that's what Cairns taught me.
I think being in a country town, you have that sense of mateship more so than being in a city, and I feel that's kind of transpired into our career today, where we go in with a smiley face, good intentions, all ethical. The other side may not be. And that maybe isn't reflective of their background, but it's just the fact that when you're from a country town, you typically maybe have that sense of innocence. And I still hold on to that, I believe. And whenever I meet someone, I always think the best of them. And that's probably what Phillipa was known for as well. So that's essentially one takeaway from country children.
I feel somewhat like I've been given the bat and given a chance to take a complete sledge at people from the city, but that's not the intention. I think the thing that I took from the country is just to judge people on their merits, just judge them on how they are to you, without regard to their material wealth and all of those sorts of things. And I think that was something that has stuck with me through my career so far. And I think it's a really valuable quality, and I think that is one of the things that sticks with you, or you certainly hope it is anyway.
And do we have any more questions from the floor? Oh, please.
First of all, congratulations. Amazing stories, fantastic, and it just really affirms why we donate and justifies that. We don't want your thanks, we want you to go out and do brilliantly, and that's exactly what you're doing. What I would be interested in is you thinking about whether the scholarship allowed you to continue some of the community activities, which I think is really important for lawyers, not to be kind of straitjacketed and blinkered into law, but actually realise that they're part of the community as well. So has that been your experience, that you've been able to do that as well as, study and then go into jobs and so on?
Yeah.
Well, I think it has, in terms of my own career. It gave me an ability to take that motivation of working with the community and pursue a job where I could do precisely that. The first job that I had after university was the frontline desk of a local MP's office, which is...
couldn't be more community than that.
Couldn't be more community with the great diversity of views and everything that goes with that. And I think, I'm thankful for that opportunity.
I think, again, yes, to answer your question, it has given us the ability to be part of the community, albeit a different community, part of Canberra potentially. And as Christina touched on before, it allowed us potentially to do things that we might not have been able to afford. So travel within our degree. So I was fortunate to go to Myanmar with an ANU course and teachers and students to help set up a clinical legal education for local high school students there. And that was incredibly rewarding, and unfortunately just before the coup eventuated again. So it's these kind of experiences that we wouldn't have had if not for the scholarship, and the fact that it still has that continual touch on our lives with our community. So I know many of us are still doing outside of work events and also volunteering in different ways. And while the scholarship has not maybe completely eradicated our debt, I know I've still got a HECS debt, it's certainly allowed us to partake in the community as we were doing before when we were students too.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Yeah. As I mentioned before, after my high school, year 12, I went to Nepal, and there I got to meet victims of human trafficking. And after that, I had an opportunity to work with an organisation in Paris called Libraries Without Borders, and they teamed up with the village in Nepal to create a digital library to stop human trafficking by increasing access to information through this library. But in order for me to do that internship and to go to Nepal a few years after the internship to open the library, without the scholarship it wouldn't have been possible, because with the scholarship I didn't have to focus on fundraising for myself because of the funds from the scholarship. My flights, my accommodation were all covered, but, so I could solely focus on fundraising for the library. So that was really, really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. That's you've done some amazing things. Well done, guys. Do we have any more questions or no? Well, on that note, I'd just like to add some closing remarks. Just thank everyone for coming out tonight. Really do appreciate the turnout, and thank you especially to our previous recipients of this award and for sharing your experiences and sharing how this scholarship has helped you. It's really actually it's been really lovely. We've got some great stories there.